Outdoor storage is actually an amazing asset class. It's gotten really hot in the last 3 to 4 years, but there's still plenty of opportunity for real estate developers and investors to make money in it. By the time everybody is investing in something, it usually doesn't have enough juice to make it worth it. If you're trying to be too safe, your returns won't be great. So you need to make sure you're not too late to investing in an asset class. Many investors have been making an absolute fortune in the last 5 to 7 years, investing in things like boat and RV storage, classic car storage, mobile home parks, really niche assets that are a lot more creative than traditional asset classes. Definitely don't be unique for no reason, but niches are where a lot of people make the most money in real estate. And there are a lot of opportunities in outdoor storage that are unique and have a lot of spread. There are specialist types of outdoor storage that are a lot more creative and provide much more substantial returns than traditional asset classes. I'm a developer in Nashville, and I developed the first Airbnb building in Nashville before Airbnb was to any sort of institutional scale. It was almost 10 years ago now. I also developed some of the first shallow bay industrial buildings in Nashville before institutions were chasing shallow bay. So I have a tendency to look where the puck is going and really invest in those asset classes. And I think that being ahead that way is where you make the most margin on any of your real estate investments. Contractor storage yards are yards that are outside but delineated with fencing and security that give contractors a place to store their equipment, materials, trucks, things like that. Industrial outdoor storage does not actually have buildings on it, or if it does, it just has a little bit of buildings, but it's mainly just outdoor storage, like self-storage meets industrial outdoor storage. And it's really meant for more retail users that, like small business owners that need a smaller, affordable place to store their materials for doing their business. I believe there's a lot of demand for industrial outdoor storage because of how many small businesses and contractors there are in the US. And I see things like junkyards as being the current option. And I think that people are willing to pay for a more professional Class A facility and have their material protected and lit and have a way to, access it that makes sense. That's not just like a junkyard, basically. We have an outdoor storage strategy that was initially very hard to get off the ground because it's brand new. I've seen people that own these outdoor storage yards that it's stabilized to over a 12% yield. However, the deal sizes are very small, so they're about $5 million per project. That's extremely small for a more institutional investor or a typical investor of mine. So people don't like investing in small deals. And it's also an emerging asset class where there's not a lot of direct comps because it doesn't exist as much. So it's definitely something that has been harder to get off the ground. But in my experience, something that is kind of harder to prove out has been where I've made a lot more capital because it's a lot less competitive and I'm sort of like paving the way in a niche asset class. We really researched markets that have, a sense of pro-business and have local jurisdictions that would be supportive to small businesses and industrial uses. I wanted to find markets where land was still relatively inexpensive and not in just like, near downtown Nashville, essentially. We looked for places where the suburban markets are within metros that have more than 300,000 in their MSA. And, high growth areas where we think this is a bit of a covered land play that will continue to grow and expand over the years as we lease up these facilities. And I think there are many, many markets where this works. Basically, wherever there is enough of a small business base, even if someone is a retail investor and they want to do a super small one, industrial land is always, they're not creating more of it. It's always a lot harder to come by, and cities generally don't like it, especially near urban cores, because you're not building buildings, you're not creating, you're not creating more housing and things like that. So as you're in these markets that are, especially like in the Southeast, continuing to grow, industrial land is always going to be valuable and continue to go up. So if you can figure out a way to even lease it, especially without building something, there's a really low cost to getting these into operation. It's much more easy to figure out than ground up development. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities in this space in many, many markets. And depending on how small you want a deal to be, if you're just investing on behalf of yourself, that industrial land is something that is, a very good investment in the long run. I think as a real estate developer, it really pays to keep your conviction in what is a good deal and a good platform. Like, this has been extremely hard for me to educate a lot of people about, and a lot of investors, because the market has been so tight, they will automatically look for a reason to say no to anything that's not straight down the fairway. But the reality is that there's just not a lot of good yield anymore, especially with where interest rates are and with the cost to build. And so if you want to find opportunity and find real yield, you have to be creative and think outside the box. So I think, again, going back to the fundamentals of the deal, like, I don't see a lot of opportunities to build something to a 12% yield in any asset class. And so I think, like, having one really strong project fundamentals, but then keeping your conviction and really, not persevering and not losing hope and finding the right investor for your strategy is like, might take a lot longer, even for someone like me that has a strong track record, but I think it's absolutely worth it and separates people that are wildly successful versus, novice investors. I hope that gave you a glimpse into what outdoor storage is, and I hope you learned a few things. If you want to learn more about industrial outdoor storage, watch this next video.